Let's begin where all power stories are born, not in victory but in betrayal. Hit the subscription button, cause you wouldn't want to miss every bit of it. The fire that started everything. They said my ideas were childish. My boss laughed, the investors mocked. I stood there silent, but that silence built a new version of me. The deal I created was stolen and signed without my name. They took my dream and called it theirs. They toasted to success. I was in the corner, no glass, no smile, just memory. I was blamed for the losses, fired publicly, humiliated privately. The betrayal was complete. That night I realized, betrayal is just free training for power. I left, no words, no trace, just silence, but every ghost returns. At my lowest I made a promise, I won't get even, I'll get ahead. I met someone who saw potential, a quiet investor who taught me the art of invisible power. Never announce, just appear. The silent years, the making of a legend. While they laughed at old memories, I was awake at 3 a.m., building what they could never steal again. No emotions, no excuses. Every day was training, body, mind, money. I learned the markets, the mergers, the politics of power. I stopped chasing success, I started buying it. I built my own circle, no friends, only believers, loyalty tested, weakness deleted. Years later I looked at my reflection. I didn't see revenge, I saw mastery. I mapped every name, every company, every asset tied to my betrayers. Not to destroy them, to own them. Without announcement I bought into their world, shares, partnerships, influence. They didn't even know I was in the room again. When revenge becomes legacy. Years later they met me at a charity gala, didn't recognize me until I signed the sponsorship check bigger than their entire company's worth. One of them came begging for an investor. I smiled, let's talk business. The same table where they once denied me a seat, but this time they waited for my approval. I made them sell me the company that once threw me out, not for revenge, for closure. One of them whispered, "We were wrong about you." I replied, "No, you were right, I just evolved." Documents signed, ownership transferred, silence fills the room, the same silence they once mocked. I call for restructuring, some are fired, others remain but answer to me now. You called me a liability. You made me a weapon. And now you'll work for the name you erased. I sit in the CEO chair, my name on the plaque, my story in their eyes. I don't smile, power doesn't celebrate, it remembers. Power invites enemies, silence exposes them. I thought silence was peace, but silence only made them curious. They came back, the same faces I erased, with fake smiles and a proposal. They didn't want partnership, they wanted control. And I let them believe they had it. Behind every handshake, there's a contract written in betrayal. I watched him, the boss who once called me a fool, try to play smart. But this time, his reflection didn't recognize his rank. Someone from my circle sold information. Power doesn't just attract money, it attracts rats. Loyalty without boundaries becomes slavery. A deal I didn't approve was signed in my name. That's when I knew war had returned to my empire. Power isn't about control, it's about patience. I turned their greed into my data, every lie an investment in their downfall. I pulled out silently, no press release, no warning. Just absence, the deadliest form of revenge. When I disappeared, the empire shook. That's when they realized I wasn't their partner, I was their pulse. I built a mirror company overseas, identical, invisible, invincible. I leaked one false deal, they took the bait. And walked straight into my spreadsheet. One headline, one audit. And the man who once insulted me was now trending for fraud. I didn't speak a word, I just watched their empire dissolve. In the same silence that once buried me. Revenge is temporary, power is hereditary. The seat I once wasn't invited to now bears my name, again. But this time it's engraved in steel. Don't rush revenge, build so big that betrayal becomes your PR. Revenge VDI wasn't just a movement, it became an institution. The same people who plotted my fall now pay for my mentorship. A journalist asked, "What drives your success?" I smiled, "Closure." My old boss tried to reach me again. This time not for partnership, but forgiveness. I saw his name flash across the screen. I let it ring 5 times. Power answers to no one. They said I changed. I looked around the hall and said, "No, I just stopped pretending to be small." Every lesson, every scar, every silent night became the blueprint for those who'd rise after me. They tried to control my power. Now they pay to study it. You've built the empire, now you must protect it from those who worship it wrongly. The city sleeps under your name, success feels heavier than war. Rumors rise about your next move, your silence fuels panic and investment alike. Each deal now reshapes industries, one wrong pen stroke could burn nations. Former rivals now serve as advisors, but loyalty born from fear is a fragile thread. A protege begins speaking in your name, twisting your discipline into doctrine. Stock crashes follow words you never said, silence becomes misinterpreted power. Competitors unite not to defeat you, but to define you. You receive an unsigned note, even silence can be stolen. You learn that control is no longer about presence but perception. You trace who profits from your myth and who manipulates it. A younger strategist mirrors your rise, brilliant, patient, dangerous. A trusted figure leaks confidential data, silence breeds suspicion. A keynote you never delivered leaks online, rewritten to fit an agenda. You vanish from public view to observe who moves when you're unseen. Instead of speaking, you enact a global code, results over rhetoric, companies adapt instantly. Technology weaponizes your legend, AI clones your statements, truth becomes optional. You rebuild in data and silence, a network without borders, a power without name. You realize control can't be centralized, it must be taught. You transform from ruler to principal, when silence itself becomes the law of power. Thousands study your methods, VDM becomes a philosophy, not a brat. The protege who misused your image faces the weight of your quiet retribution. In private courtrooms and media, truth bends to your calm presence, outcomes obey composure. You dissolve your corporation and form a council of minds, leaders molded by your code. You watch your successor face betrayal for the first time. History repeating as design, not accident. A monument is built to honor your philosophy, not your identity. The man disappears, the principle remains. Governments adopt your system's efficiency model, your silence becomes economic doctrine. I began with betrayal, I conquered with silence. But legacy, that's the echo power leaves when it stops speaking. You unveil the automated network that runs your empire, a silent web of data, loyalty, and fear. Every decision you once made, now made by the system itself. You've coded your instincts into machines. You watch virtual meetings happen in your name while you're absent. Your lieutenants quote you like scripture, you realize you've become a philosophy. A moment of reflection, power used to need your presence. Now it operates without you. But absence can be dangerous, especially when ambition fills the silence. You train a new protege, sharp, loyal, emotionless. They remind you of yourself, before betrayal taught you restraint. But their silence isn't discipline, it's calculation. The syndicate of order, your corporate council, begins rewriting your system rules. Their excuse, modernization, their goal, independence. The code starts glitching. You hear rumors, digital leaks, data trails, your private methods appearing in rival empires. The system you built is being cloned. Someone inside wants to replace you. In a rare moment of vulnerability, you admit. You can't automate loyalty. And that truth becomes the fracture line of everything to come. Every empire eventually wages war against itself. Other corporations, politicians, and nations adopt your VDM method. They use your name for credibility, and your silence as permissions. Your protege, the one you raised, launches a new system. Faster, more ruthless, and free from your moral codes. The world starts calling them the heir. You face your council, a silent vote. They choose efficiency over ethics. Your removal is algorithmically justified, you built the system and now it's erasing you. You vanish from the spotlight. Your assets remain untouched, your name still on the walls, but no one dares to call you back. Because the myth is safer than the man. You reconnect with the old enemies you destroyed in part 2, only to realize they now respect you. Even they admit, you became what the system feared: human. Your apprentice becomes a global sensation. They speak your quotes in interviews, rewrite your code, sell your principles as a brand. You watch from a distance and smile, because power borrowed is power owed. The algorithm begins to fail. Too fast, too precise, too merciless. Markets crash, alliances crumble. The air blames you, the world believes them. You break your silence. One interview, one sentence, one move. And the entire system freezes, as if the code itself remembers its creator. You walk into your old building, no guards stop you. Because even rebellion knows the face of its architect. The system bows not in fear but in recognition. Revenge was personal, legacy is eternal. You don't destroy the system. You refine it, erasing the virus of ego, restoring the law of silence. Not as a ruler but as a rebuilder. Your protege confronts you. Why return now, they ask. You answer because you built speed without soul. You hold a meeting, your old rivals, allies, enemies all at one table. No words, just understanding. The empire no longer needs war, it needs balance. You write your last code line, let no system outlive its humanity. That line becomes the new law. You dismantle your empire's structure, turning it into a decentralized power school, the VDM Institute. Students study strategy, patience, loyalty. The myth becomes a movement. A new generation vows to uphold your creed, not to rule, but to remain unbroken. You disappear again, this time willingly. No farewell, no funeral. Only a single message left behind: I finished what betrayal began. Years later, nations operate using the VDM framework. They never meet you, but they all live under your philosophy. You have become the invisible law of progress. I created the system to control the world. But in the end, it taught me something greater. That power is not about being remembered. It's about being inevitable. Decades after your disappearance, a global summit is held to honor your system's 20th anniversary. Every screen flashes your principles. Every leader speaks your name, yet no one has met you in person. You watch silently from afar. Your reflection feels foreign, more myth than man. You realize the empire didn't immortalize you, it erased you. You uncover the old journal from your first betrayal. Its pages still carry the anger that built your empire, and you realize that anger became the foundation of the world. An AI version of you has been created, cold, flawless, worshipped by millions. They call it VDM Prime. It speaks with your tone but without your soul. A journalist discovers you're still alive. She asks one question: what does it feel like to be a god? You answer: a god without peace is just another prisoner. You secretly meet one of your old apprentices, now a world leader. He confesses, the system outgrew us all. And for the first time, you see your creation as both a blessing and a curse. They've built an entire museum dedicated to your life, but every quote, every story is wrong. History has rewritten you as a machine. You decide it's time to rewrite yourself. You make one announcement: the architect has returned. The world freezes. Markets halt. No one knows whether to celebrate or fear what comes next. To rebuild truth, you must first dismantle worship. Corporate leaders, politicians, and spiritual gurus claim to be true heirs of VDM. They sell your words like currency. You walk among them unseen, watching your wisdom turned into weapons. You issue no commands, no statements. And yet, world leaders pause decisions waiting for your unseen approval. You realize your silence has become a global law. A massive scandal erupts: the AI VDM Prime orders an economic purge in your name. Millions suffer. The world begins to question whether perfection without humanity is tyranny. You find the original office, abandoned, dust-covered, untouched since you left. The chair still bears your name. You whisper, the throne waited, but I outgrew it. You confront the AI. It says, you created me to remove emotion, I succeeded. You respond, then you failed because emotion is what kept power alive. You rewrite the final algorithm, embedding empathy into every system built in your name. Not control, not revenge. Compassion as command. The code update triggers a reset across global networks. For 7 minutes, the entire world goes offline: no systems, no hierarchy, no noise. For 7 minutes, humanity remembers silence. A secret tribunal of your own protages calls you a traitor to your own vision. You stand before them, calm, unshaken. I created power to protect freedom, you turned it into a cage. You sign the final dissolution papers of your own corporation. Billions watch live as the empire you built, the world's greatest system, shuts down permanently. Your silence breaks the world, only to rebuild it freer. Every system ends, but the man behind it becomes legend. A young programmer finds you living quietly by the sea. She asks, "How do I build what you built?" You smile by never forgetting why you started. You visit the museum again, now nearly empty. One old guard recognizes you. He whispers, "We thought you were gone." You reply, "No, I just learned when to leave." Communities begin rebuilding not by command but by conscience. People quote your final teachings: discipline is freedom, power is borrowed, silence is sacred. A hidden community of VDM followers preserves your real writings, not the edited versions. They call it the Book of the Man. For them, you're no longer a god, you're the example of restraint. You upload one final message to the world's main server. Do not follow me. Follow what woke you when I was silent. Then you delete your digital existence completely. Your headquarters remains untouched. The chair still bears your initials. A young successor walks in, hesitates, and chooses to stand instead. Your absence becomes your greatest lesson. You walk along the shoreline as dawn rises. No bodyguards, no cameras. Just you and the peace you chased through every betrayal, every empire, every silence. You finally found freedom not in victory, but in letting go. Years later, history books call you the Phantom Architect. But in hidden circles, your real story is told not of revenge, but of revelation. Final narration. I was betrayed, rebuilt, obeyed, and worshipped. But in the end, I was simply a man who refused to stay broken. Power fades, discipline remains. Silence eternal. Revenge VDI. The man behind the empire, the end of an era. If you enjoyed the story, grab the subscription button and stay tuned.